There's two sides of the coin. Well, not two sides of the coin. There's two main components here that were resulting in the kind of themes you were seeing, and then us having to make sense of them in a way that would hopefully work. Some with some series more so than others. The first is, and again, I'll always preface these statements again because I speak for no one but myself, but I have the flexibility and freedom to do that now. It is my strong opinion that there were creative leads at both Toei and Bandai during that pocket chunk of years that you're talking about there for those 2 or 3 themes in a row, who were not the best choices for those roles, were not making the best decisions for the show unto itself, even as its own kind of like entity of, what the core values of this show is and how to make it work globally, but also in deference to the bigger picture issue that is the second part of this statement, which is ever increasingly over the years, it made more and more of a wedge for us to have to deal with that. In Japan, it was becoming more and more evident out of deference to Kamen Rider that Sentai was the preschool show and that Kamen Rider was the big boy show. And while it made perfect sense for their market and they needed to do that in order to have 2 hit shows, the myopic result of that and the myopic refusal to see further down the line to what the real opportunity was that in doing that and in positioning Sentai as that, knowing that Power Rangers would have to be positioned that way, it meant that it severely hampered our ability to be a really cool big boy action brand in the face of how cool the Turtles reboot was, in the face of how amazing the Marvel Studios reboot of even lame characters was kicking ass. Who the hell ever would have thought there would have been a kick-ass Ant-Man character and movie that came? I loved all the weird Marvel comics as a kid. My favorite comic to this day is Rom's Space Knight, but I would never have thought, that they could take a character like Ant-Man or convincingly take Vision and turn him into someone that was super compelling on screen and on shelf. And they did that. And while all this is happening, we have a parent company who refuses to look past their own noses and realize that it can't be a preschool show outside of Japan because preschool shows, they don't fight with each other. Yeah. Paw Patrol, the number 1 preschool brand right now, they're not fighting other dogs or other animals.
I wish they would, though, because my son watches that all the time, and I would be so much more emotionally invested if there was like an evil Sky. I've joked about like a Shattered Glass or like a Dark Universe Paw Patrol, that fight that would be great. I would be so happy with that.
Absolutely. As creative adults, I could get behind that for sure. But for network broadcasting, and especially for a live action show, you cannot call a show that involves kicking, punching, fighting giant robots, kicking, ugly rubber-suited monsters in the gonads. You cannot call that a preschool show, and you certainly would never get it aired as a preschool show. So what it ended up becoming is this weird little gray space between preschool and between big boys. And again, in my opinion, and I think a lot of, toy and trend analysts would say this, you accelerated the age up out of Power Rangers experience way too quick. So a kid could hold on to Power Rangers as long as they wanted to, but really what we were seeing was we weren't getting kids older than 6 and 7 to buy the product. They'd watch the show, but because it wasn't revamped in visual, thematic, and narrative ways to hold their attention longer and then hence become a toy experience by marriage of that, it became something they would maybe watch, but they wouldn't buy the t-shirt after a certain age. They wouldn't buy the toys after a certain age because all their friends had moved on to bigger boy stuff. And who wants to be the kid that shows up at something that people think is not cool anymore, or yesterday's news, or it wasn't keeping up with the cooler trends of, catching a Pokemon, or did you see the new blockbuster Marvel movie? Oh my God, they got all the Avengers were in one movie. So it was that kind of handcuff on things because Toei didn't want to budge from their strategy. And it's not a statement of disrespect to them. I would say what I've learned over my career is that people don't do things the wrong way, and they don't certainly try to make the wrong decisions. There's often cultural differences or business needs that don't translate. And Japanese companies who've made some of the greatest life-changing products of our lives, right? Think of what Sony's given you. Think of what Nintendo's given you. Think of what, Bandai and Toei have given us. One common thread they have across them in all their decades of the heights of their success and the deepest pitfalls of their failures is what made them amazing and hugely popular and hugely successful is also the same thing that holds them back. And it's that stoicism and that vision of this is something that we've given the world. And there's a huge, I've always admired the Japanese company's way of, we create things that are wonderful and special to us, and they quote unquote sell them to you, but what they are doing is they're sharing their ingenuity and innovativeness and their joy to the rest of the world. But in doing so, a lot of them those companies have created these myopic tunnel vision ways of doing that, because, well, we did it before like this, the world embraced it. If the world's not embracing it again like this, it must be something wrong or different about the world, not about the wonderful thing that we've given to the world. But try to explain that to Sony shareholders who they once owned the TV market, they once owned the personal music player market. Everyone had a Walkman, right? Did they ever make it so that you owned also an MP3 version of that? No. Nintendo has had some missteps and failures because of that thing. How long did it take to even get Mario onto a mobile device because of that same method of thinking? No, we will not put Mario on your iPhone. You will come to Nintendo and we will provide you with an amazing product with which to play Mario. Yeah. And because of those things, you have blockages of thinking and blockages of potential success. Yeah, it's the same thinking that got you that success in the first place. So it's a very curious mindset that I've observed, and I by no way is this gospel or business 101, believe me. But that DNA kept Toei and Bandai from ever kind of diverging off the path that Sentai was on, and then of course very heavily influenced and affected what we could and in some cases could not do with Power Rangers.
Well, yeah, I mean, just to play off that, I mean, I can only understand your frustration in the sense that here you are working with a property that, that's its parent company and the series you're adapting from continues to skew to a younger and younger audience, while your competition here in the United States is skewing older and older and older. What do you do when, Marvel superheroes, become huge action heroes that, ages 5 to 55 fall in love with, while your property, it changes every 2 years, it changes, and you're dealing with something that feels even more kiddish than it was, the 2 years prior. That's crazy. I've got so many crazy questions I could jump to. I'm just going to try to keep going in a row, try to get the big ones out of the way here first.